James Lynch and Adam Martin here for Spectation Sports. We are here to break down North Iowa fights. They are back May 21st at the Mason City Arena. Get this, Adam, in Mason City, Iowa. No surprise there. First off, man, how are you? How's everything?
Doing great, James. Looking forward to talking about some fights with you again, my friend. Listen, we love the UFC. We love the big shows, James. But like I always say, they all start from somewhere. All these fighters start from somewhere, and you never know when the stars of the future will appear. So looking forward to talking about North Iowa Fights 13 with you, my friend.
Yes, and we got a lot of exciting fights. Let's start first. And we actually have some odds this time, Adam. We're going to start first in the featherweight division. A little bit of a surprising fight here. Carlos Mata moving up to featherweight to take on Stephen Merrill right now on Spectation. Carlos Mata, the favorite, minus 650. The comeback on Merrill, plus 200. What can you tell us about this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's actually not a bad fight at all. It's okay. Get this, James. It's for the RMF title. And I'm like, what's the RMF title? It's the realest mother effer title. So
exactly,
that's pretty funny. They actually got the belt. It actually says it on the belt and everything. The reason for that is because Mata typically fights a flyweight. He just fought Charles Johnson in LFA for the title. Went 5 rounds, James. He lost in the 5th round, but it was one of the best fights of the year. Johnson's now in the UFC. So had Mata won that fight, James, actually he would be in the UFC, probably fighting Mohamed Mokaev in UFC London. But
that's right.
We don't actually have that fight now. It's Charles Johnson in the UFC. But Mata gets his chance to fight North Iowa Fights, moving up 2 weight classes, James. Typically a flyweight, moving to featherweight for this fight. So he will be a little bit smaller. Having said that, though, I mean, the guy's very talented. There's a reason the odds makers said him as such a big favorite. Merrill, James, what's interesting about this guy is he actually has a win over Jeff Molina, who's in the UFC right now doing great things at flyweight. So that's a nice win, but 6-fight losing streak, James. All the losses by stoppage. A little bit of an older guy. He's 32. Mata's only 27. Even with him moving up in weight, I like Mata to win this fight, man. I'm pretty sure he wins by stoppage. So that's my thoughts on it, James. I like Carlos Mata here. We also have odds on the over-under, and even though it's a featherweight fight and sometimes they do go over, I would venture this one goes under, James. I think Mata gets a first-round stoppage here, my friend.
Yeah, that's another thing I was looking at as well as far as the odds and everything in the fight. For me, I also look at the fact that Stephen Merrill is 5'9" with a 72-inch reach. Carlos Mata, 5'6" with a 69.5-inch reach. That's not a huge difference, right? Like you think a guy moving up that many weight classes, there would be a discrepancy there. There isn't. I like Mata here as well. Am I going to lay the minus 650? Probably not. That's a little too, unless you want to parlay that with some other fights, but I think that's a little too steep for my liking. Maybe you look at the under in that fight as well, if he can go out there and get it done. Like you said, the under is minus 250, getting a little bit better value there, but I do like Carlos Mata to get it done. And you're right, very close fight he had with Charles Johnson, who the UFC is basically giving now to Mohamed Mokaev. We'll see how that fight goes, but really exciting fight there. Sticking with featherweight, we've got another cool fight coming up here. We've got Sean McFadden taking on Chris Dunn for the at featherweight as well. We've got Sean McFadden is the underdog at plus 110. Chris Dunn, the favorite, minus 130. What are you liking about this fight? A big experience gap here.
There is, yeah. So Dunn's got 26 fights compared to 5, and that's obviously the first thing that stands out. And I believe that's why he is a slight favorite, James. I think that makes sense, right? Yep. Having said that though, James, 16-10. The guy's lost 10 times, and a lot of them by stoppage. He does have one decent win in his career over Jordan Espinoza, another UFC veteran. So that's not a bad win, but a lot of losses, James, and a lot of submission losses. McFadden, he's interesting, right? He has a lot of amateur experience. That's not included on his pro record. So 5 pro fights, but that's a little bit misleading because he has like 15 amateur fights or something before that. He hasn't fought since 2020. He is an LFA veteran, James. He is coming off a loss, but he's only 26 years old. So compared to 34 for McFadden, I just wonder, he's taken 2 years off, but maybe he's gotten really good during that time off. So this is a close fight. It could go either way, James. I could definitely understand why someone would lean towards Dunn through the experience factor, but I look at all those losses and see a guy that can lose. So I'm looking at McFadden here possibly at plus 110, James, to get the finish in this fight, maybe by submission. He has a lot of experience fighting for LFA. A lot of his wins are by submission in that promotion, and I think he could do it here. So I'm going to go with Sean McFadden by submission.
Yeah, I was looking at that too. It's kind of an interesting matchup in the sense that you've got this guy in Dunn who also fought Cody Stamann. I mean, he's fought sort of the who's who out there, but like you said, fallen on hard times. My only concern here with McFadden is the level of opposition. He's only fought a couple winning opponents here. He fought a guy who's 1-0, fought a guy who's 5-7. So the level of opposition maybe not there. But you mentioned the amateur experience makes you feel a little bit better as far as that goes. Now, most of his wins, McFadden, are by submission. And you look at Chris Dunn, he's definitely got some submission losses in there. Lance Lawrence, who's I believe a Contender Series vet or someone that's fought sort of on the regional scene, is someone that submitted him as well. So I'm with you there. I think, McFadden's got the upside here. To me, when you have a fighter that's this young, you can typically, you're not going to get the best fighter every single time. You might get a more improved fighter each outing out. So I'm with you as well. I think McFadden, if you're getting him at plus money, I think could be a steal here. Younger, taking less damage and less pressure, right? He loses another fight here, not a big deal. Chris Dunn needs this win if he wants to continue moving up the ranks in the regional scene. So I also like Sean McFadden with the upset in this fight. I think there's some value there on plus at plus 110. Okay, let's get to the main event. It's a catchweight fight now because of what happened with the original opponent here. We've got Eddie Laria stepping in on short notice to take on Leo Kutz, the UFC vet. Big odds here. We've got minus 1,000 here for Leo Kutz taking on Eddie Lara, who's plus 700. Your thoughts on this fight, Adam?
Yeah, so Larry obviously stepping on extremely short notice. You know what's funny, James? He's on a long losing skid right now. I think it's 13 fights. He was supposed to fight Jay Ellis, who's also on a long losing skid. One of those guys would have won a fight, so that would have been an interesting fight. Instead, he comes in on short notice for this fight, and it's a good opportunity for him because he's taking on a UFC veteran here, Leo Kutz. So let's start with Kutz. He fought twice in the UFC, James. First fight, they give him Islam Makhachev. He loses by submission. No shame in that whatsoever. Anyone's going to lose to Islam. Second fight, James, he's involved in that infamous Fight Fix fight with Tai Yong Bong, who actually ended up going to prison for 10 months for allegedly being involved in fight fixing. Even though he was supposed to win the fight, Kutz, he still ended up losing a split decision, which is funny. And James, only since then, fought twice in Road FC in South Korea. Hasn't fought in, I believe, 5 years. So he's coming off a long layoff. Having said that, he is a American Top Team guy. He's been training with Phil Dario. I checked his Instagram. So, that's obviously a great coach there for his strength and conditioning as well. The long layoff is always a concern, James. But I look at Kuntz as a decent fighter, man. Good record, a lot of stoppage wins. He's not that bad, James, honestly. And, I think he got a raw deal in the UFC, man. Fought Islam and then fought Tai Yong Bong, who's actually not bad. And I'm pretty sure you were in Vancouver where he knocked out what's his name? Cajun Johnson in that crazy fight at UFC 174, I believe. It was an insane fight. So that's not really a bad loss. Going with Larry, listen, he's got a lot of experience, James. He's got over 60 fights, actually over 70 fights. It's crazy. You look through his record, he's fought a lot of UFC competition. Gerald Meerschaert beat this guy 3 times, which is crazy. He's lost to Sam Alvey, Zach Otto. He does have one UFC veteran on his wins resume, Joe Vedipo, former UFC veteran. So that's not a bad win, but 13 straight losses, James. He's 40 years old. Listen, Kutz is 38. He's not a young guy by any means, but taking all that time off, I feel like, his body's probably really recovered from this. I don't think the odds are off. I think minus 1,000 makes sense. I think Kutz probably goes in there and gets a first round finish. So, yeah, Kutz by finish. And then under 1.5, it's juice, James. It's minus 300. I'm pretty sure he finishes in the first minute of the fight. So I think that under hits pretty easily, too.
Yeah, I was going to suggest the under as well, just because I do think you look at all Laria's losses, there are a lot of them are happening in the first round. He's 40 years old. Credit to him for stepping up on short notice, but the odds are like that for a reason. And typically when you got a guy who has that UFC experience, again, he fought Islam. I know it's not the Islam of today, but still that's invaluable experience there. So I'm also liking Kutz in the main event to get it done. So there you go. It is North Iowa fights, like I said, going down at the Mason City Arena in Mason City, Iowa, May 21st. You can watch on Expectation Sports, but if you live in the area, go check out some regional MMA. It's always fun, always a good showcase of the future of MMA. So make sure you go check that out. For myself, for Adam Martin, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.